This is a short video on how to order RGP lenses. When you are asked to complete a lens specification, you need to include the name of the lens, the manufacturer, the material, as well as any other details like a handling tint, for example. But the key measurements that you need to include within your lens specification is the BOZR, the TD, and the power. The BOZR is usually fitted on the flattest K reading for a spherical lens. So for example, if we had K readings of 7.8 along the horizontal and 8 along the vertical, then the flattest K reading is the 8. The steepest K reading is 7.8. So the first choice lens that you would do would be a BOZR of an 8mm. There are some variations where you might need to order a different fitted lens. So you might order 0.05 steeper in the BOZR than the flattest K. So for example, instead of ordering an 8, you might order a 7.95. The total diameter is usually between 1.5 to 2 millimeters less than the HVID. Now, most of the lenses do come as a 9.3 or a 9.8, and some are in the middle at about a 9.6. So you do need to check the ACLM book to confirm the lens details before you order them. For any spectacle prescription that is above plus or minus 4 diopters, you do need to take into account the BVD. So for example, if we had a spectacle prescription of a -10 and a BVD of 12 millimeters, using the equation F over 1 minus DF, D being in meters, you would, instead of ordering a -10, you'd order a -9 diopter lens. Now remember, contact lenses are always more positive than the spectacle prescription. So if, say, for example, we had a spherical lens that we needed to order with the following information, we have a prescription that is above the 4 diopters, so we need to take into account the BVD. We've got 2 keratometry readings, so we need to look at which is the flattest K, and we've got an HVID, which we'll need to then take into account for when we order the lens for the total diameter. So the lens that we would order in terms of the total diameter being 2 millimeters less than the 11.5 would be 9.5 millimeters. When we take into account the BVD and calculate it as per that equation, the lens that you should be ordering is around a -4.27. So the actual order you're going to make is -4.25. And with the K readings, the flattest K, so the more higher number in the K readings, is the 8.1. So when you write out your actual order, it's going to be an 8.10/9.50/ -4.25. Now, as I mentioned before, look in the ACLM book, make sure the lens is available to order, and adjust your choice of TD to match whatever lens would be available. Ensure to include the manufacturer's details, the name of the lens, as well as the material and any additional handling tints that you might want. If we had to order a toric RGP lens, specifically if you wanted to order a back toric lens, considering that if you ordered a front or a bitoric lens, you would need to include a prism to stabilize the lens, we'll be discussing the back toric option because that is the one that's more commonly dealt with by ourselves without manufacturer input. Again, we've got the following details. So what are we going to order? Well, usually with a BOZR, it's slightly different. This time round, you need to give 2 BOZRs. So your first BOZR is going to be your flattest K reading. The second BOZR is going to be your steepest K reading. So if we've got K readings which are 8.2 and 7.8, then the steepest K is that 7.8. The flattest K is the 8.2. So you're going to order 8.2 ... 7.8. With the lens power, what we need to do is actually work out based on the power cross. So what are the 2 powers along the 2 different meridians? And then do the calculation for each individual power. So along one meridian, the prescription would be a -4.5. And then if our seal is -2, then -2 in the other direction at 90 degrees would be -6.5. So that means that the lens that we're going to order in the two different meridians would be minus 4.25 and in the other meridian minus 6, taking into account a BVD of the 12 millimeters. So the order that we're going to make is going to be minus 4.25 along flat and minus 6 along steep, because the more myopic the prescription, the steeper the power. So for the back toric lens, we're going to be calculating our total diameter based on the HVID in the same way. It's going to be 2 millimeters, or about a 1.5 millimeter less than our HVID. So that works out to being about a 9.5 millimeter. With the subjective prescription that we've got, with the spectacle prescription, once we convert it and take into account the BVD, we know that we have to specify our two powers along the two different meridians. We're going to specify minus 4.25 along flat and minus 6 along the steep. The two keratometry readings, or the two BOZRs that we're going to give as a result, is 8.2 ... 7.8. So the actual order that you're going to give is 8.2 ... 7.8 / total diameter, which is 9.5, and then minus 4.25 along flat, and then minus 6 along the steep. Again, just look at the ACLM book and choose the closest lens parameters that would be available, specifically looking at the total diameter. Now, there is a different way that you can actually fit the BOZR. Now, in some cases, you will fit on the two different K readings, which is your flat and your steep. But in some cases, just like when we looked at the tri-curve, we might have to adjust the second BOZR to fit a little bit better. So the first BOZR would be fitted on the flattest K, and the second BOZR might be fitted a third flatter than the steepest K. So again, using the same keratometry readings, the difference between the two, so 8.2 minus 7.8 is 0.4. Therefore, a third of that amount is 0.13. So a third flatter than the steepest K means that we need to add on the 0.13 to the steepest K, which is 7.8, which gives us 7.93. Now, because we're going to be ordering to the nearest 0.05, the order that you would make is your flattest K, which is 8.20 ... 7.95. So that would be another way that you could order the lens: 8.20, 7.95, total diameter of 9.5, and the power is the same as before, minus 4.25 along flat, minus 6 along the steep.